After the COVID lockdowns, the Western global leadership class had little credibility left, so it seemed insane that they'd immediately pivot to a new crisis. But that's exactly what they did. Russia's invasion of Ukraine triggered demands from elites in Europe and America for NATO-aligned nations to involve themselves in the conflict. Many Republicans were initially on board, with Fox News and CNN marching in lockstep behind intervention. But the Republican base quickly soured on the war once it became clear that U.S. involvement didn't serve American interests. In a strange inversion, the right became anti-war while the left championed military escalation. That reversal matters now as some in the GOP look to drag the country into another long conflict. We should remember what the war in Ukraine taught us. When Russian President Vladimir Putin invaded, many conservatives instinctively aligned with Ukraine. The Soviet Union was an evil empire and a clear enemy of the United States. It was easy to paint Russia as an extension of that threat. President Biden assured Americans that it would be no troops on the ground and that the economic sanctions would cripple Russia immediately. But the war dragged on. Hundreds of billions of dollars flowed to Ukraine while America entered a painful economic downturn. Conservatives began asking whether this was worth it. Now, to be clear, Putin was no friend of the U.S., and conservatives had valid reasons to distrust him. But suddenly, anyone questioning the war effort was smeared as a Russian asset. Opposition to the war became an extension of the left's deranged Russiagate conspiracy, which painted Donald Trump as a blackmailed Kremlin agent. Some Republican politicians kept pushing for the war. Fox News stayed hawkish, but much of the conservative commentariat broke ranks. They knew that the boys from Appalachia and Texas, exactly the kind of red state Americans progressives despise, would again be asked to die for a war that served no clear national purpose. From that disillusionment, conservatives drew some hard-learned lessons. They saw that U.S. leaders lie to sustain foreign conflict, that politicians in both parties keep wars going because of donors' profits, that Fox News can become a mouthpiece for military escalation, that you can oppose a war without betraying your country, and that American troops and tax dollars are not a plaything for globalist fantasies. America first began to mean something real. Peace through strength didn't require constant intervention. Unfortunately, many of those lessons evaporated after the Hamas terrorist attack on Israel on October 7th. That attack was horrific, and no serious person denies the brutality of Hamas or questions Israel's right to defend itself. But Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has treated the attack as a green light to target longtime adversaries, including Iran. As a sovereign nation, Israel can pursue its own foreign policy, but it can't dictate foreign policy for the United States. In 2002, Netanyahu testified before Congress that Saddam Hussein was developing nuclear weapons in Iraq. He said that toppling both the Iraqi and Iranian regimes would bring peace and stability. He was wrong. Now, he wasn't alone, of course. Many were wrong about weapons of mass destruction and the Iraq War. But Netanyahu's track record is highly relevant now. While conservatives once fervently supported the Iraq invasion after 9/11, many, including prominent commentators like Tucker Carlson and Dinesh D'Souza, have since apologized. They admitted that it was wrong. The war in Afghanistan, while flawed, did have clearer justifications. The Taliban had harbored Osama bin Laden and al-Qaeda, but the lies about weapons of mass destruction and failed nation-building in Iraq turned the war into a conservative regret. In March of this year, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard testified that Iran had not resumed efforts to build a nuclear weapon. Gabbard, like Trump allies Robert Kennedy Jr., Kash Patel, and Pete Hegseth, was chosen precisely for her skepticism of the organization she runs. Trump remembers how his first term was sabotaged by insiders loyal to the status quo. This time, he selected appointees loyal to him and the voters. Gabbard's assessment clearly contradicts that of Netanyahu, who claims that Iran is just months away from having a bomb. That's a pretty massive discrepancy. Either Iran hasn't restarted its program, or it's on the brink of building a nuke. So which one is it? Did the U.S. intelligence agencies fail? Did Gabbard just lie to Congress and the public? Or did she simply say something the ruling class didn't want to hear? Trump, Gabbard, and even Vice President J.D. Vance have made it clear that they understand how Iraq went wrong. They know Americans deserve evidence before another war, especially one that risks dragging us into a region we've already failed to remake at great cost. Yet the war hawks keep repeating the same line. This time, it'll be quick. The United States is too powerful, too advanced, too economically dominant. The enemy will just fold before Christmas. Biden said the exact same thing about Ukraine, and hundreds of billions of dollars later, we remain in a grinding proxy war with Russia to this day. Now, while still financing that war, Americans are told that they must back a new war, this one initiated unilaterally by Israel. The U.S. faces domestic strife, crippling debt, and an ongoing open border crisis. Involvement in yet another conflict makes no sense. Look, ultimately Israel might be right about Iran. Tehran may indeed have developed a nuclear program behind the world's back, but if Israel wants to wage a war, it must do so on its own. The Trump administration has already made it clear that it wasn't involved in Israel's preemptive strikes and did not approve them. If Israel starts a war, it should fight and win that war on its own. America should not be expected to absorb retaliation or commit troops to another Middle Eastern project. These wars are never short, and they're always expensive. Even if Iran's regime collapses quickly, the aftermath could bring a long, brutal occupation to prevent it from descending into chaos. Israel doesn't have the capacity, let alone the political will for that task, and I promise you that burden would fall again to America. And that's not even touching on the refugee crisis, which at this point has completely transformed parts of Europe, just flooding them with Muslim immigrants who are fleeing these different regime change wars. Another one of these, another destabilized Islamic country where everyone heads west for benefits and safety, could be the final nail in the coffin for many of these European societies. So before conservatives fall for yet another round of WMD hysteria, they should recall what the last two wars have taught them. If the situation really is dire, let the Trump administration make its case to the American people. Present the evidence, debate in Congress, vote. But please, don't sleepwalk us into another forever war. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and click like, and if you haven't subscribed yet, now is a great time to do so. If you'd like to get these broadcasts as podcasts, make sure to subscribe to the Auron MacIntyre Show on your favorite podcast platform, and when you do, leave a rating or a review. It really helps with the algorithm magic. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter or Gab or Substack, if you'd like to watch these videos on Odyssey or Rumble, the links to do all of that are down below in the description. If you'd like to pick up my book, The Total State, you can find it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or Books A Million, even your local bookstore. And if you want to support the show, you can head over to shopblazemedia.com, click on the Auron MacIntyre collection, and pick up some merch so everyone knows that you enjoy listening. As always, you can check out my columns at The Blaze and watch my latest episodes there as well. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.